Syarah Fazalia, and I will be the moderator of today's debate. In this debate, each speaker will have 5 minutes to deliver their speech. After 1 minute, the timekeeper will signal one bell. And after this, the debaters on the other team may offer the point of information to the speaker. Debaters must end up with over point of information. The speaker who has the floor may choose to set up or decline the point when it's offered. At 4 minutes, the timekeeper will again silence one bell. Out of this, no more point of information may be offered for the rest of the speech. At 5 minutes, the timekeeper will make double signal of bell. And after this, the speaker must conclude within few seconds. After 6 main speeches, the team will have the opportunity to make a 3-minute reply speech. And this can be made by either first or second speaker on each team. No point of information are allowed during the reply speeches, and the opposition will make their reply speech first. After 2 minutes, the timekeeper will signal once to let the speaker know they have 1 minute left. And after 4 minutes, the timekeeper will signal twice. Before the debate begins, I would like to remind you to switch off all mobile phones and anything else which might disturb the debaters. You shouldn't leave or re-enter the room for any reason during the debate. Please wait until the end of the speech to do so. Audience members should be aware that they are not the participant in the main debate. Well, ladies and gentlemen, general adjudicators, and our debaters, we would like to welcome the 2 teams to perform in the first semi-final match round of the debate contest of Alection 2022. Are you guys ready? Alright then. Please welcome Fatihah Syahirah Binti Nafrizam, Mohamad Akmal bin Sabri, and Mohamad Safuan bin Mohamad Akhir as the debaters from Team B. And then we have Eisa R, Saifullah Mohammadi, and Ibrahim Wiyar from Binti. Alright, before we get started, we will decide which team will present the opinion of the government or opposition part based on the following spin of the operator, please. Alright, congratulations to the team B, you got the government side. And team C as the opposition side. We will be having 5 minutes for the case building. Okay. For the governing party may enter the hall. Just for the information, for the debaters, you may speak in your own position so that you don't need to come to the middle of the stage. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I call this House in order to present their case on today's motion. This House believes that standardized tests are effective in measuring students' abilities. I call upon the Prime Minister, Muhammad Safuan bin Mohamad Akhir, to open the case for the government. The floor is yours.
Thank you to Mr. Speaker, other legislator, the line of government representative, friend of the opposition, and the members of the floor. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, ladies and gentlemen. Acting as the Prime Minister of Government, then I am standing to argue the motion that we bring to the Parliament today, which is the House believe that standardized tests are effective in measuring a student's abilities. Members of the floor, normal debate as the Prime Minister is to bring 3 tasks in our debatation today. Firstly, giving the definition of our praise of motion. Secondly, giving the mechanism of our main problem. And thirdly, giving the conclusion of motion claim. And my other government representative will help me to give you the arguments related and rebut this beneficial argument from the opposition side. Members of the floor, from the motion itself, I have separated several phrases to make sure that members of the floor understand that what we are trying to do. There is 3 phrases in the motion that the government already separated, which is a standardized test, effective in measuring and also students' abilities. Members of the floor, now we will define each of those phrases to make it clear to everyone. 1. A standardized test is any form of test that requires all test takers to answer the same question or a selection of questions for a common bank of questions. It is used to compare the relative performance of individual students or groups, such as a multiple choice question, true-false question, fill in the blanks, matching, and essays given to all the school students in Malaysia and other countries, for example. And for the second phrases, effective in measuring, standardized tests may be used for a wide variety to measuring the educational purpose. For example, identify students who need special education services or academic support, and second, place students in different academic program or course level, and the third, over other education certificates. The following are a few representative examples of the most common form of measuring student abilities using the standardized test. First, achievement test, aptitude test, college admission test, international comparison test, and also psychological test. And the simple word we can say is the measuring that we mean in the government side to make it effective is focused on the grades and marks in any form or on standardized tests. And the third one, students' abilities. We focus more on the primary and secondary school students in terms of curriculum and co-curriculum. As for the status quo situation, we can see that the results in grading student abilities and what will be beneficial to the current situation and the future generation for the whole world. Members of the floor, before I'm going to the argument, I would like to give the burden of proof to the opposition side to make sure that they are really understand about this motion. The first one, show to us what is the other effective ways to measuring a student abilities. The second one, if you are talking about non-standardized tests, then non-standardized test, is it fair to all students because every student takes the different test and is evaluated in a very different way. And third, is the use of non-standardized tests providing valuable information that educators and school leaders can use to improve instructional quality. Members of the floor, back to my argument, let me share with you the problem that affect the current and future situation by our definition in terms of the status quo. The current problem right now is the opposition side must think that the standardized test is effective in measuring grade of curriculum and co-curriculum of the students by grade. The problem is students need to pass the examination in standardized tests. So this problem can be solved when the standardized tests offer a meaningful data to help students in marginalized group based on their problem. This is my point.
Thank you very much. So you are talking about the achievement test and you are talking about the standard test. This is completely different. If we study the history of this test, it is completely different, you know. Achievement test is the test that you are touched different kind of points, like different subject, different question, different parts. But in a standardized test, you just...
Okay, I think it's already 50 seconds now. Okay, let me say for your POI. Okay, the first one, we never talk about the subject. We just talk about the definition of the standardized test in the meaning of the whole global world. This is our opinion. And I will explain it later what we mean about the standardized test that will be given the point by my representative of the government. Okay, let me explain my first one. When is test offer a meaningful data to help students in marginalized group based on their problem? The first point, ladies and gentlemen, standardized tests offer evidence for marginalized group of students with races, learning disability, or other different background students, which can be used to help the student problem via more funding, development of program or other solution. The teachers also can focus more on disadvantaged background students who are having problem in learning skill and capabilities of comprehending knowledge. And members of the floor, we can see that there is a lot of proof which is from the 12 civil rights organization, including the NACCP and the American Association of University, explain that the data that standardized tests are particularly important. Let me finish my word first. Standardized tests are particularly important in showing students' abilities because they are only available, consistent, and objective source of data about disparities in educational outcome. So, this is necessary for the house to accept the motion. We bring unanimously as we try to make sure that standardized tests are effective in measuring a student's ability. Request to always propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Muhammad Safuan bin Mohamad Akhir. Now we've heard from the Prime Minister. Let us invite the opposition leader to state the opposition's objections referred to today's portion. Please welcome Said Elsa.
In the name of Allah, I am Said Elsa from the opposition side. Welcome you all and Assalamu alaikum. First, I just wanted to raise my hand to ask him to keep the mic not so close because the speaker it was very hard to listen. Sorry. And okay, I will try first to rebuttal their points and the arguments that they throw at us, and after that I will try to lay down 2 or 3 arguments that I have against their arguments. First off, about so they argue that the standard test is effective, one thing, that we have to provide alternatives, because they believe that there are no alternatives, and I will try first answer the effectiveness of this case. First of all, the standard text is not effective, and I disagree with that part. It is yes, it is the option for some countries that they use this, and they don't have many other resources and options to use other types of this. And yes, that is true, but this it is not effective because of the big flaws that it has. One of the flaws is the design of the standard test. Standard test looks in a much broader scope, and it doesn't it has in mind lots of people, because it does not can measure very good the characteristics of people. For example, people who are critical thinking, people with they have skills of collaboration, things like that. And specifically, for example, there is a test. It has, for example, an example of cultural example, but that cultural example is unfamiliar to someone else, so that standard text does not apply to everyone. For example, there's a person coming from another side of the country, that exam very much will be very unfamiliar to him. But it does not mean his knowledge is not good. It means that there is a flaw in that exam, so the effectiveness has a problem, and there are flaws in the exam. And the burden of proof they given for us for alternatives and the solutions. There are solutions, for example, in Finland. Pew research shows that Finland has better rates of at science. There are students in school, and on many other subjects better than United States. For example, United States is a country that uses standard test much more, but Finland uses it to a very high extent, much less. But still, they have a higher grade. So they use many other examples, like there is a cybernetics in different systems they use, and it has very good benefits. I will now go to my own arguments. My first argument is the negative impact on people these tests have. These tests have a negative impact in many ways, and some of these impacts are permanent on the students. That they will scare them, they will put so much pressure and mental stress on the students, and that is something that should be considered. And some people, it will be like permanently with them. So until like in a whole their life, their career, it will affect them, these tests. And like for example, some people because of that very much are scared. And although they are very intelligent and they have the knowledge, and sometimes but when this is like a broader scope of because of the exam and the pressure it puts, it creates so many problems for them. Another thing is the argument of that it cannot predict the future. Like for example, the test can give you, like say, he has a bad grade, but then we say the person who's like the 10th he has like the 10th ranked, he goes to a very higher, better status in the society later than the guy who's number 1. And my third argument is that it is unreliable and invalid. How? Because, for example, I know that I'm very good at math, I'm not so good at biology, but we see this is the case sometimes, that I get a bad grade at math, but a good grade in biology. So it is unreliable and unpredictable. And furthermore, I will give you guys a book, a reference that you guys should study, The End of Average, the name of the book, by Todd Rose. He talks about how we succeed in a world that values the sameness. We are humans, we are different, every person, but there should be like different designs. But I said countries like Finland, lots of these countries, very advanced countries, they are using this system, and also we should be on that way to try to design and copy their way and go in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Sayyid Elsa. Now we've heard the opposition leader. Let us invite the Deputy Minister to explain the objections with regard to today's portion. Please welcome Mohamad Ammar Akmal bin Sabri.
Student performance is a crucial element of a metaphorical three-legged bench, stool that also includes standards and learning. And we believe that when one leg is weak or missing, educational programs may be the one that fail. But if all three are strong, the programs can be strong. Standardized tests are used to measure the student performance leg of this stool. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Mohamad Ammar Akmal. So I bid primarily to our wise educators as well as meticulous timekeeper. So me as a Deputy Prime Minister, my job today is to do two things. First is to respond to the first speaker of opposition case, and second to give the issue and tell you our mechanism to show that standardized test is effective in measuring students' abilities. Let's move on to respond to the first speaker of opposition case. So as the first minister of opposition stand up, he said that there is no option for some countries to choose standardized tests, therefore they choose the other way around. I tell you, this is the modern world. Of course they can send some researchers to other countries to learn. It's so simple like that. Don't you know about that? Second, if they never define any definition on the motion today. So I'm asking you, the opposition, are you agree on this? That's why you are not providing any definition from your side? No, you didn't even provide any. Now, you said that, you tell about there is a solution, but it is not clear. You tell us that there is a solution from the Finland that can cater, instead of using the standardized test. Please sit down, I'll take you later. You never tell, what is the example? You can tell there are a lot of examples. For example, like CGPA, you can tell like GPA, but you never tell that it is not clear. And also, you tell us that, for example, maths and biology cannot be tested by standardized tests. I tell you, we have examination that take maths and biology, right? So isn't that standardized test? Now, Let's move on to this. Let's move on to the second and third arguments from the government. I first will tell you the argument title as well as the issue, so that you can be clear about how the standardized test is effective in our side. So standardized tests. On second argument of the government, we say that standardized tests are good indicators of colleagues and job success. The issue is non-standardized tests does not universally used worldwide. I give you a scenario. United States, for example, using a standardized test, and we Malaysia are using a school-based assessment. So school-based assessment, they use a band 5, like those bands, right? So when the students are going to apply to study in the United States instead, they are going to take another test just because they have to follow the standardized test as being applied by the United States. So it would be not effective. So standardized tests are generally good at measuring students' knowledge, skills, understanding, because they are objective, fair, efficient, and comprehensive. For this reason, they are used for decision about admission to college, graduate program, and professional schools, as well as qualification and licensing for many skilled occupation and demanding professions such as law and medicine. For example, I give you Bachelor of Medicine in Canada. If you are going to apply for it, you have to pass the secondary and primary examination. For example, Thomas Philip Advocates and Solicitors, a law firm that recruits lawyers based on SPEM and STPM in Malaysia. For example, TOPIK is the only official standardized test for Korean language proficiency for foreigners administered by the Korean government. Please welcome.
So the definition, yes, I agree with the definition of standard test. My point about how it is flawed, how the design is wrong. So the definition is, yes, this is a system of tests that is standardized and measures the...
You are not going to rebut me in the POI. Let me further proceed with my third argument in our government. So third argument, we stated that we believe that standardized tests offer an objective measurement of education and a good metric to gauge areas for improvement. Now, the issue is we have different kind of learners. They don't know which place they are good at. So therefore, we provide a standardized test which fairly measures students' abilities, right? So school reading and mathematics skills, for example, can be precisely specified, and as students learn the skill, they benefit from ongoing information tailored for their specific individual progress. Educators as well will be able to help students when they know how and what at which point the students have weakness at, right? So these can actually help both educators and students if they find both the students' strengths and weaknesses. So for example, if the performance information gained from the standardized test helps identify weaknesses, that might be improved by classifying them by their ability. For example, in Malaysia, we have Linus program, literacy and numeracy program, right? That can actually improve students as they gain the information that these students are weak at specific point, right? So and then that standardized test and then for example, information gained from the standardized test can, especially the strengths, can be viewed can help identify notable talents to be further developed by college study and special vocation. Thank you from the government. I would like to stand my motion, which is this House belief that standardized tests are effective in measuring a student's abilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohamad, Ammar, Akmal, and Sabri. Now we've heard from the second speaker. Let us invite the second speaker of the upper side to state the opposition's objection with regard to today's portion. Please welcome Saifullah Mohammadi.
Okay, in the name of God, the most merciful, the most beneficent, I want to pay my attention and respect to all of the judges and the timekeeper and the opposite team. Thank you very much for coming here. And I would first, as the deputy leader of the opposition, I would like to illustrate some points. First of all, I would like to come to the deputy prime minister points. He said he's claimed that skills, a student can learn different skills, right? So I says that this test is destroying student skills because this skills is structured in a very narrow way. For example, am I good at math? I cannot do this in my biology because this test is just circulating in a one subject, in a one part, in a one portion. This is why this test is destroying the history, the hopes, the dreams, and the future life of these students. That's why this test won't be a skill building for the students. The second thing, he said that this test have These tests have incomplete portion. How? For example, someone is good in math, and someone's not good in another subject, they just do good in maths, and the rest of portion is still remain less, still remains down. This is why this causes for the student to lose his concept, to lose his enthusiasm, to lose his incentive. That's why it is not good. And for the example, 80% of American students that receive services move to another country because of this test. This test destroys their dreams. That's why this test is not complete portion, not complete structure. And the last one from the Hesburg, he claimed that the test will be further developed. If this test is further developed, it means this test is not effective yet. It means this test is not effective yet, right? I would like to say again, this test is not effective right now. What he's saying that it would be further developed. We are saying the opposite thing, that this test is not effective for the measurement of ability of the student. That's why we stand our incentives. And I would like to come to my points. Our leader says that it have a negative impact on the student. How? That I earlier mentioned that one student good in one portion, not good in another portion. That's why he making a good grade in one, and he's putting it down his grade in another. That's why it has a different impact on the student career. And the second thing is, student cannot predict future because the exam structure is unpredictable. And the third, the last one is unreliability, inaccurate information. There is still doubt that the information is inaccurate based. Students don't know that what will be my result and what will be my... Just come. And I will come to my points. The first thing is very important to discuss about it is, this student is an incomplete chart, an incomplete image, right? It won't give you the complete information. This test is all about memorize things. Just memorize and write down in the test. I will come back to you. And the second thing is, this test is a symbol of education. And the last one I will come, this test is discourage student analytical theory. Student cannot predict what to do or what not to do.
You always say that standardized test destroy the skill of student. So what is the mechanism other than the standardized test that you bring right now? Thank you.
Okay, so I will come to the answer that how this test is destroy the skills of the student, right? Because we cannot stay in one skills. We have to learn different skills. If I'm not good at math, I'm good at something else. That's why the another subject will be still down and cannot be good. That's why this is the answer to that, right? Another question?
Thank you, Saifullah Mohammadi. Now we've heard from the second speaker. Let us invite the third speaker of government to state the government's objections with regard to today's portion. Please welcome Fatihah, Syahirah, Binti, Nafrizam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to the respective educators, members of the government and also members of the oppositions. I am today as the government whip will only do one duty, which is to rebut all of the points given by the opposition and strengthen our stance on the government side, which we believe that standardized tests are effective in measuring students' ability. The second opposition has come up with a lot of problems that arise from standardized tests, which they said that is not effective. Yet they are failed to solve the problem. They didn't come with any mechanism, which we on the opposition, which we on the government side believe that standardized tests are effective in measuring a student's ability based on the mechanism that has been stated by our Prime Minister. Secondly, the second opposition clearly mentioned about standardized tests cannot predict future. Yet they fail to come up with a mechanism which can allow them to predict future. Does anyone in this hall can come up with a solution, or anyone or any individual can really predict the future? And secondly, they said that the standardized test is unreliable. Let me ask you a very general question. If standardized test is not reliable, how is it able to stand strong up till 2022? How is standardized test is still here since the beginning of time until today, and why is it being used if it's not because of the effectiveness? Okay, next I would like to, and that is why us on government side we believe that the standardized test is effective based on the points and premises given by the Prime Minister and also the Deputy Prime Minister, and also the first leader opposition clearly state that standardized test is not effective because there is no enough or not enough resources. How can you guarantee the mechanism that you're going to propose, which you didn't, is going to save a lot of resources and is going to make it available everywhere, and the one that you gave is effective? And secondly, you keep on mentioning Finland as an example, but you didn't clearly mention what system or this system, the phrase this system that you keep on using, but you didn't say what system is Finland using. You keep on saying this system. If they have a very good success rate, then what is the system? This system that you mentioned is effective. And thirdly, you said that yes.
The system that they are using is mainly they categorize the students based on their interests. For example, there are some type of students who are mainly like they are into, for example, social subject, or their type of thinking. For example, he's critical thinking. There's one category, and also the other things that they use is they are.
All right, thank you.
For example, some portfolio.
Thank you. Yet you are still not explaining what this system that they are using. And you also said that it also put pressure, stress, and you say that it is not. You say that it put pressure and stress. Let me tell you, which schools in this world that does not put stress and pressure on their students? The only matter is how it is different level of stress and future. It is better to be stressed and pressured on something that is effective, that is reliable, than to be stressed and pressured on this system that you unclearly mentioned. Secondly, you said that standardized test is unreliable and is not valid. The premises that we brought have clearly said that standardized test can offer an advocate for marginalized group of students, and it can offer an objective measurement. There is a very clear universal measuring effective in measuring, and it also has the very good indicators for college and good success, which standardized test is universally used. The measuring tools is there and it is capable all around the world. Yes, it is why that standardized tests are effective. And again, from the opposition, you have failed to prove to us all of the burden that we have given. We have come up with 3 burden of proof, and yet you fail to prove to us things as simple as the mechanism from the opposition side, or another solution for an effective in measuring a students' ability. And with that, me as the government, we continue to propose.
Fatihah Syahirah bin Nafrizam. Now we've heard from the third speaker of government party. Let us invite the third speaker of the opposite party to state the opposition objections with regard to today's portion. Please welcome Ibrahim Wiyar.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to say something about the judgment staff. I really appreciate them to come there for supporting and also friend keepers and also our opposite team. And after that, I want to say something about the arguments of the opposite team. Our Prime Minister was completely disagree with the points of opposite team, and he clearly mentioned which was expected from our leader. And we have some questions as well from that, but they did not answered clearly. And they also said about the predict about future. We cannot predict about future because future is future. For example, this is impossible that we can predict our future. And after that, I want to say something about the points of my leader and the Deputy Prime Minister. My Prime Minister said, until not the standardized test will not get a good result for a student. For example, there are many other tests that the student can to get and will give many achievements for himself. And the second point was, he mentioned some of the countries that there is no unstandardized test like Finland, USA, and like these countries. And he said clearly, because there is a system of group system, and some of the countries has a low education system because they don't need to make a standardized test. And the other one, standardized tests have not a huge effect on the student life. For example, there are many things that the students can improve themselves. If you stress on the student, the opposite team said it should be stressful for the student to take a standardized test. If we give stress to a student, maybe there will be cases, very negative cases, for example, suicide cases. For example, like these cases, for example, if you stress on a student that you must do this work, maybe the student pass with a suicide, and maybe the student pass with heart attack, like these things. We should not stress on the students. And Deputy Prime Minister said, this test do poor job and result cannot be creative. For example, if students just focus on this test, the student will leave many other things that the students can give in his or her future. And the second point, standardized test is a very simple, small of knowledge. Standardized test is very simple sample is of standard of knowledge. For example, there are, as I mentioned before, there are many things that the students can improve themselves, not just only standard test. That's why standard test is not effective for measuring student ability. And the last point, standard test is more harm than good because there is no accurate measurement for the student ability. And I strongly support the ideas of my group members, Prime Minister and also Deputy Prime Minister, and I completely disagree with the opposite team because they did not give a clear response. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Ibrahim Wiyar. Now we've heard from the second speaker. Now we've heard from the third speaker, so we have closed the first session. The next session is to make 3 minutes reply speech. This can be made by either first or second speaker on each team. Let us welcome the government side to present their first speech. Please welcome. Sorry. Let us welcome the opposition side to present their first speech. Please.
I will try to summarize the back and forth between us, our claims, their claims, and the points that they didn't point out, the flaws in their arguments. I want to find it out and also give a summary of our position, where we stand in this, and our summary of our arguments. First of all, they are asking a few questions from us. For example, why still the standardized test is around? It's a very simple answer. we see that countries who have no choice, they still have this system around. Countries who are still don't have the resources, but they still can go on that way. And it doesn't mean that science is the best option. For example, Finland is a very, very advanced country. The rates of crime is very low, the welfare of the people is very high, the education, they're ranking 4th in the world in science, in between 100-something countries. And also, that's why, and when the other countries are using still scientists, it's because of their low education system, not as much, but the resources that they don't have. And the other question, I am not claiming that I am not giving any alternatives and a solution. The solution, I very much simple said, there are many systems that they are using, but one of the things is they categorize the students. For example, based on their mindset, based on their interest, based on the way of their thinking. Students who are like more analytical, who are more creative, so they will categorize them. And that way students will be more comfortable. They will work in more ease, less stress. Stress is very something serious that they very much underemphasize the stress. In Japan, there is a very high rate of suicide between the students. In Japan, there is very high system of standardized tests, very serious standard and very linked. Also in Korea and in India, high rates of suicide is a very, very big problem. And those people, when they undergo that situation, they are not the same. They have that. In our arguments, another way, we point out the flaws of the design of the standard test. For example, the SAT test that the United States takes, and they take for entry. And lots of people with very creative minds, they can't enter. And also our other points, including about the unpredictability of these tests. They predict, for example, okay, you will go to, this your result will end up like this, will end up very high, but you don't end up very high. And also the reliability and invalidity. And thank you, I think we totally covered all points and answered their points, and we clearly show our standing, and that's why I think we have won this argument. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir. Alright, the government side will be continuing to reply to the speech within 3 minutes. You may start now.
Now pay close attention to what I'm going to tell you, because that side has never been doing that. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now I'm going to close and sum up today's debate by 2 jobs. First, I will tell you why we win. Second, why they lose. Now,
self-esteem is so high.
First of all, as all of them stood up, they are so envious with us. They search for our mistake instead of give definition first. The first minister literally agree to our definition instead. They told us, I agree with your definition. What means that? They are in our side, right? So now, as my prime minister stand up, my prime minister give the 3 burden of fruit, but none of them being answered. If you really eager and keen to tell us that standardized test is so ineffective, please prove to us as we ask you that, right? So failed by the government. Now, failed by the opposition. Sorry, my apologies. Now, as I stood up, I even provide to the example. For example, school-based assessment. I even provide to them CGPA method, which can actually be example for non-standardized. But they never been doing that. They said that Finland are using a group method. You lack imagination, you lack research. Finland are using school-based assessment. You should go back and go make a research before come here. Now, all three of them, they literally do not understand your role. Their prime minister should give the definition, but never do that. Second minister, they always rebuttal us, never give a solid argument. Third minister, they are giving us a point instead. They are not they're not stable, and their teamwork are really questionable over there. So we from the government, we provide you three arguments which stated that Sandra says offer an objective measurement of education and a good metric to gauge areas for improvement. Because why? Because we care for the students, so we want them to get improved. And now the opposition also tell us that instead of giving the standardized test, they can actually provide by the classifying students based on their performance, whether they are weak or not. So we already explained here in our third argument, which we give us leaders program in Malaysia. Now, when standardized tests offer a meaningful data to help students imagine life group based on their problems, it's often an objective measurement of education and good metric to gauge areas for improvement. And standardized tests are good indicators for career and job success. Therefore, I beg you, if you really care to the students, if you really care for your future, come to us, the government, and as well. And now the debate goes to Team B. Thank you.
Thank you, Ammar, Akmal, bin Sabri. Moving along. Both the government and opposition side are requested to stay in a place as the adjudicators will give the comments. To the honorable adjudicators, we would like to hear some words of feedback regarding the arguments which were delivered by each team.
رحمة وانا بعث خدا وراسي تيم قليل بيصير كده استاذ
Nazru, möchtest du nicht?
غير باسو كويس تاني وبعد اخلصوا كنا بعض خدا وراسي تيم قوي دي اجي رحمته
Okay, first of all, good job for both group. Okay, can you give a clap? Good job. And okay, for today, like for government and opposition, okay, so maybe another round, you should know your position. You should know your responsibility. Like you are everything, you have to know your position and what we set to voice out in your position. Okay, please check on that. Right. So I think I will announce the best speaker first. Okay, the first speaker for this round is Fatihah. She did a great job. Okay, so the result, because we are running time, so we accept the motion. Any additional? The government take this round. If you want to have our point of view of that, you can consult with us.
Chai